can we do? What can we do? What can we do?
We can fight!
From zero to hero, and then back to zero. Welcome to WatchMojo.com, and today we're counting down our picks for the top 10 shocking facts about Napoleon Bonaparte. For this list, we're reviewing unusual and generally unknown facts about this French emperor's life, including his rise to and fall from power. Number 10. His wife's affair was a tabloid sensation.
I want you to write to me. Once a day at least. Twice would be better.
Joséphine de Beauharnais, widowed and with 2 children, apparently had quite a few gentlemen suitors in her day. But then she met Napoleon and became his wife. When Napoleon was away at war, she was left alone at home, which led her to start a relationship with a French military man. Rumors of her infidelity swirled and finally reached her husband's ears.
The man I love is there.
It takes 2 to love.
What are you insinuating?
Distraught, Napoleon wrote a letter to his brother, but the message was intercepted and eventually found its way to a British newspaperman who printed the details for all to read. Turning Napoleon's crumbling marriage into a tabloid sensation, this, on top of the fact that she hadn't produced an heir, caused the emperor to divorce Joséphine. Number 9. He lost at chess to the Turk.
Anything can happen, my friend. Proof? Check.
Napoleon was an exceptional military strategist and the kind of man who had to win at everything he tried. That might be why he couldn't resist a game of chess, especially against a supposedly almost unbeatable machine. In 1809, he challenged the rarely defeated automaton chess player known as the Turk at Austria's Schönbrunn Palace. Unbeknownst to Bonaparte, the incredible gadget was actually controlled by a person hidden inside it, playing through a complex mirror system. The emperor made several illegal moves, causing the Turk to relocate his pieces back to their original spots.
The Turk swept its arm across the board and knocked all the pieces off.
While tickled by the machine's responses, Napoleon was unable to beat the Turk in a proper match. Number 8. He sold Louisiana to the US for dirt cheap. In his effort to take over the world, or at least as much of it as he could, Napoleon began building an empire in North America, taking ownership of the Louisiana Territory in 1800. However, the economic effects of the Haitian Revolution on the French colonial enterprise caused Napoleon to relinquish all of France's territorial claims in North America to the United States. The U.S. came to the negotiation prepared to buy New Orleans and adjacent territories for $10 million. However, they were surprised when France offered all of their lands in North America for $15 million. This purchase gave the U.S. over 500 million acres of land, at 3 cents an acre. Needless to say, this was a steal.
Very well, that seems fair and reasonable.
It's extremely fair and reasonable considering you could just conquer it for free.
What?
I mean, you know his troops are tied up in Europe.
They don't know that.
And you've never lost a war.
They fought one war, and we helped.
And we couldn't reclaim the land if you did take it, but please, I beg you, pay us something. Just pocket change.
Number 7. He wrote a romance novella.
We are different.
I will not try to kiss you again.
Napoleon's life seemed to have been comprised of one failed relationship after another, though given his nature, it should be no surprise that he had a tendency to sensationalize his exploits. But each of those relationships was filled with a treasure trove of love letters from Le Petit Caporal. After a particularly tumultuous relationship with temporary fiancée Eugénie Désirée Cléry, the future queen of Sweden and Norway, Bonaparte used his writing skills to pen the romance novella Clisson et Eugénie. The novella was essentially an autobiographical account of his love affair with Cléry, although pseudonyms were given to barely conceal the identities of the lovers.
The 2 most outstanding men of our time have been in love with you. And you know real beauty, but you have a way with you.
Number 6. He was more Italian than French.
I should like you to applaud, to acclaim the victor of Toulon, this general of 26, none other than General Bonaparte.
A man inextricably tied to French culture and history, Napoleon, perhaps France's most legendary leader, was actually not that French after all. The Bonaparte family was actually from the island of Corsica, which was held by Italy until it was conquered by France in 1769, the year of Napoleon's birth.
We must acquire Corsica. Sire, it has been considered for some time.
Well then, I should not like it to be delayed any longer.
And before that, the Bonapartes were part of the Tuscan nobility. In fact, Napoleon's birth name was actually Napoleone di Bonaparte, while family and friends affectionately called him Nabulio. The eventual emperor of the French only seriously began to learn fluent French when he was sent to school in France at the age of 9. But he never did learn to spell properly. Quel dommage.
But must one say Bonaparte or Bonaparte?
Bonaparte.
Times change and names with them.
Number 5. He didn't exactly get along with the Catholic Church.
The Pope will think we've run into him totally by chance. I cannot let him imagine that I would make an effort to meet him. I owe him no more respect than I do to any petty little king.
You cannot discuss the rise and fall of Napoleon without mentioning the Catholic Church. On the outside, he seemed to champion the church. In 1801, after the revolution and basic dismantling of the church, he signed a concordat to restore the Roman Catholic Church as the majority church in France and reinstate its power.
My idea is to transform Notre Dame into a Greco-Roman temple.
That is to say pagan.
That is to say spectacular.
However, behind closed doors, he was not devout and was actually more curious about Muhammad than Jesus. His relationship with the office of the Pope may have deteriorated further if the legends are true. Apparently, he was to be crowned by Pope Pius VII, but at the last second, snatched the crown and anointed himself so he wouldn't have to answer to the Pope. Number 4. He introduced canned food to the military. During the Napoleonic Wars, the French military was concerned with food preservation and worried they would not be adequately able to feed their soldiers, especially when the army was unable to obtain food in a hostile region. The military offered 12,000 francs for a suitable invention, and in 1810, Nicolas Appert won that prize by presenting glass jars that were airtight, becoming the father of the modern canning process. Napoleon must have been extremely tech-savvy for his time and jumped at this technological advantage for his militaristic pursuits. Number 3. He always had poison on hand for a rainy day. Though stories vary as to whether it was a pill, a vial of poison, or a packet of toxic powder, many sources say that Napoleon carried poison with him at all times. Why? Maybe he was afraid of the potential humiliation of being captured. Or maybe he was terrified by the thought of the torture that could ensue if he did get caught.
They've signed the surrender, and Your Majesty is honor-bound to respect it. France has given her word, sire.
However, he finally chose to consume the poison on April 12, 1814, the day after he was forced to abdicate the throne. Only it didn't work. The poison had been sitting around for at least a decade and had expired. Instead of dying, he became painfully sick and was cured by a cup of tea and a good night's sleep.
Judging from what I've seen, ruling over France brings very little happiness.
Ruling over this island brings even less.
Number 2. His little soldier lives in New Jersey.
While he was alive, there was this obsession with his sex life and his personal life. He was a celebrity in the same way that we regard celebrities.
Napoleon was certainly a man of the world. But did you know that Napoleon has roots in the United States? Well, at least part of him does. After Napoleon's autopsy, his physical examiner, Dr. François Carlot Intermarché, who was left out of Bonaparte's will, and you'll see why that's important in a minute, decided to take a memento for himself from the infamous emperor's body. What did he take, you ask? Well, he snipped off his penis. Napoleon's little soldier has changed hands and traveled the world, and eventually was bought by an American urologist in 1977, whose daughter now owns it and houses it in her basement in New Jersey. And in case you were wondering, he was not that well endowed.
This is definitely a little smaller than I thought, maybe an inch and a half or so. Maybe 2 inches, inch and a half, do you think? And I guess that's what happens to To Flesh, I guess none of us are going to look too good after 185 years.
Before we get to our number one shocking Napoleon fact, let's review some honorable mentions.
It's what's behind the throne that counts. My brains, my ambitions, my desires, my hope, my imagination, and above all, my will.
Number 1. He wasn't as short as you think.
Desperate act of a little man with a big Napoleon complex.
Many of you may have heard of the Napoleonic complex, when a short person acts overtly dominant to compensate for their size. Since that condition is named for Bonaparte, the idea that he was diminutive has persisted for centuries. British propaganda often depicted Bonaparte as little and aggressive, and the rumors spread.
You all stand before me waving a piece of paper, crying, abdicate, abdicate. I will not! I will not!
However, Napoleon was the average height for his time. At his death, he measured 5 feet 2 inches in French units, or 5 feet 6 inches in the modern English system.
You have depicted me as smaller than Monsieur Talleyrand.
Well, sire, I was merely respecting nature's proportions.
A man's scale is determined by his destiny, not by nature, monsieur.
Of course, sire.
Napoleon himself is partly to blame for the myth, as he preferred his elite guard to be comprised entirely of tall soldiers, which made him appear comparatively short. No wonder they called him Le Petit Caporal.
Thank you for that.
Do you agree with our list? What are your favorite facts about Napoleon? For more revolutionary top 10s published every day, be sure to subscribe to WatchMojo.com.
I don't want to see you around here anymore. Beat it! Vous me connaissez, monsieur? Beat it, Badi! Idiot!